We are tonight's entertainment.
You can't handle the truth.
The fire rises.
Pizza time.
You're a wizard, Harry.
So many to be.
You know how much I sacrifice?
You think that's air you're breathing?
Groovy.
I don't have friends. I got family.
We are Sex People! 1, 2, 3, 4!
Craft Services.
Hey,
Hi,
Trent.
Parth. Oh, jinx, double jinx. Triple, owe me a code.
You owe me a
Hi,
s-
Parth.
Fuck. How are you doing?
Oh, that's not usually our first question, but thanks. I'm good.
I
How
was
are
just
you?
wondering.
No. I'm just genuinely curious too.
I'm doing pretty well. I had lunch recently. I don't know if you're interested in what I ate.
See, now you're asking the big questions. What have you been eating?
I had classic egg burji. As I've told you, it's scrambled eggs, but with some Indian spices thrown in there. And it was really good. I find myself making burji a lot now that my mom, now that she works in person and my dad works in person, every now and then I'm left to my own devices at home. And I don't know if you have this experience, but ever since I left for college, even though that happened at this point 5 years ago, 6 years ago, ever since then, I feel like my house has way less food than it used to. I feel like my parents slack on the shopping and accumulating of food, and we have way less leftovers. So anyways, point
So
being,
I think what you're observing here is that they took a major step back grocery wise when you left. They're like, Parth's not here. It'll be sad. We'll have an empty table. Let's buy a fourth less groceries. And you haven't sat them down and had the talk about I'm back and we need more groceries. That's what people are referring to when they say, have you had the talk?
Oh, really? Wow, that's
what
not
the birds and the
I'd-
bees are about.
That's interesting. No, well, here's the thing. I was only gone for college my freshman year for 9 months, if that, because of COVID. So,
COVID-19, yeah.
the pandemic, by the way.
The
Or should I say
COVID-19
the
global,
plandemic.
the global, yes, the Democrat liberal planned plandemic. Agreed. Moving forward. Hail Trump. Yes.
We know where the tide is shifting. Anyways, because there's less food around the house, I feel that I make burji more often, or maybe I was just not as attuned to what was in the house prior. What have you eaten most recently?
Speaking of hailing King Trump, hail Trump, by the way.
Wow. Okay.
Hail King Trump. Just thought I'd say it one more time. So I know they were making all sorts of promises about the grocery prices. I was just at the grocery store on the front lines. I don't know, guys. $11 for chicken strips, $6 for a thing of bread. I don't know if I trust King Trump, hail Trump, but I don't know. I know it's only been a couple weeks, but he's been signing a lot of executive orders about getting rid of like immigrants and like art and like inclusivity. It's like, what about my chicken strips? I mean, needless to say, hail Trump, King Trump. He's doing a great job so far. I voted for him. So did Parth. He may claim that's not true. But I just had a buffalo chicken wrap with the chicken strips I got from the grocery store.
There's a lot that just happened there.
It's a new bit I'm trying out. I don't know.
Yeah. Is it a bit?
I've sort of given up in the second term, and I think I'm not Parth. It's absurdist humor.
Okay. Well, I would hope you haven't given up on this podcast because we have a pretty awesome intro I could cue.
Cue it, dude.
Yeah?
Hail
Do
Trump,
it and cue it?
Hail Trump, King Trump, cue the intro.
Oh. Welcome back to Craft Services, where we talk about the movies. Each week we talk about a film, and hopefully we have a crew member of that film to talk with us about their experience working on the picture. This week we are continuing our conversation with
LOL, Lol Crawley.
I'm sure he's never gotten that before.
Yes, my mom said, who are you interviewing? And I said, the cinematographer, and she goes, LOL. And I go, it's pronounced Lol Crawley. Thank you very much.
Lots of love, Crawley.
Lots of love, Lol Crawley. Thank you to you and your team for setting this up. Thank you for rescheduling after the very unfortunate Palisades, California fire.
Seems like everything was going all right for him, which is we're happy to hear.
Yeah, best wishes to everyone involved in that. Best wishes to Lol. Thanks again. But yeah, this week we wrap up our interview.
Yeah, this is part 2. I'm really excited for you guys to hear it. We really go deep into the making of the movie, some of his favorite shots, some of the sets. I think should we let the humble listeners listen to our humble interview?
As humble as they are and as humble as the interview is, I think we should just cut to it so they can finish the humble interview and return to their humble consumer-driven lives. Hail Trump.
Oof, we're still doing that. Well,
I'm getting it out of my system.
You know what we still do here on Craft Services? We cue the interview. One of the images I think that is sort of iconic, it's the poster, is the image of Adrian Brody smoking with the sparklers.
Yes.
Can you talk about that? I mean, within the context of the film, it's kind of actually it's not that long of a shot, but it makes an impact. And was there a feeling when you were shooting it of like, that might be our poster?
No, there wasn't a feeling of that. However, I mean, not for me, but then Brady Brady wouldn't have thought that as sort of explicitly as that, but definitely Brady was like very conscious that the Adrian in that moment looked like this kind of 1950s movie star. You know, I think he said that, publicly, and I think there is an iconic nature to that shot for sure. That was actually a shot that was day 4. We shot a lot. We shot the scene where you see there's a wide shot across some water where they're welding furniture and he's starting to manufacture the furniture. That was day 4. And then that shot, which is kind of part of the same process, was actually shot on the very last day on this sort of New York backlot in Budapest. And so that was one of the last images that we sort of captured of Adrian. I think it was just before we did the scene where he runs with Elizabeth in his arms after she's overdosed, So that was all taking place on the same day. But I remember it being an incredibly striking shot. And then we were having to obviously put these kind of welding sparks underneath the camera. And then Adrian was stepping up into it. But yeah, it's an incredibly iconic shot. I'm really pleased they've run with it for the poster campaign.
How linear was your shooting schedule? Were you jumping all over the place? Like chronologically?
That's a good question. The honest answer is at this point, I don't remember. I'd have to sit down with the schedule again. But, the logic is you start with a linear timeline and then you then work from that. So at the core of any schedule, there's a general sense of a kind of logical timeline and then necessity to sort of deviate and move around on that. But, I know some directors will really try to adhere to or insist on a chronology, sort of adhering to the timeline for performance. And, obviously I can understand that. There may have been discussions between Brady and Sully, our wonderful first AD, about that. Like I said, day 4 was kind of the arrival in Pennsylvania, for example, or into Philadelphia. So, that kind of tracks with the journey of the movie. But yeah, unfortunately, you do have to jump around with these things. It's just part and parcel of it.
So the two major builds within the diegesis of the film, and I hope we can talk about both, are the library and the community center. And I was wondering about how you approach trying to shoot the library, because that sort of had to be striking enough to justify the rest of the movie.
Yeah, that library moment where he completes the library. I mean, I think that's the first point in the movie where you understand Laszlo's, not only his skill and his incredible creative ability and design expertise, but you also appreciate him. He's almost kind of at his calmest in the entire movie. He's kind of like the most Zen-like kind of moment that he's experiencing, and you really see it. And I think the VistaVision, that sort of wide shot, that kind of iconic wide shot where you see all of the doors of the library butterfly open. I think it's kind of remarkable testament to Judy's design. And then really, we knew there was this light from above as well. You know, we had to put that light in and then build the set around it. So that we had to get that right. That was certainly something that was very important. You know, when you were first introduced to version 1 of the library, it's quite dark, it's dusty, it's very red. There's a lot of red velvet drapes. The second version of the library is completely different. You know, it's kind of like filled with light and is very sort of sparse and beautifully sort of economic in every sense. And then so it's really a case of sort of, I mean, a lot of the heavy lifting of course is done by Judy in the design of that space. And then really it was about me sort of pushing light through from outside, but then not overwhelming the space so that the light from above, you still felt the light from above. So when Laszlo sort of pulls the piece of furniture, the chaise longue underneath it, you know, it's supposed to fall in this space, you know. Yeah, it's amazing. Like I watched this with an audience and many times now, and there's still a little bit of an intake of breath when that moment comes on, which is, you know, very gratifying that it really lands that way for the audience, I think.
And then the other major build Trent was talking about with the whole community center, you talk about shooting that, and especially the room with the water and the poles. Oh. What is that space in reality where you're shooting?
Yeah, so just to back up a little bit, essentially, you know, and Judy has spoken about, essentially, given the budget and the time, there was never a scenario where we were ever going to be able to build the Institute, right? So what you see within the film is a very, very clever amalgamation of spaces and VFX work. The VFX work is obviously kept to a minimum. I mean, Brady is just not a filmmaker who, you know, it's obvious that Brady is a filmmaker who wants to capture as much in camera as possible. So it's only really when you have the wide shots of the hillsides and you see the time lapse of the construction of the site and of the Institute and things. Of course, there's, you know, we have to lean into the VFX for that stuff. But the other piece of the puzzle is the construction site, which was basically a field where Judy could, you know, go to town, kind of digging holes, building steps, having the scaffolding and things like that. There's the space that sits below the Institute. And then really just coming back to your question about the spaces, Judy and the locations department and Brady sort of selected as many pre-existing poured concrete features, buildings within Budapest and the surrounding area that they could find. So there was a place called Rudabanya that was 2 hours outside, which is basically like a museum, an archaeological museum, which is we use for where they're searching for Van Buren at the end. There are some sort of concrete silos where the altarpiece is installed, and then the place that you spoke about, the water. I mean, in the film, it's a water holding. It's like a water tank, a subterranean water tank for the Institute, and that's essentially what it was. It was like a water facility in Budapest, and it was the most extraordinary space. I mean, my initial reaction to it was, let's not light it. Like, how, you know, because it's this has this incredible quality to it. It's really, I mean, these kind of trumpeted pillars that you mentioned that are sort of like trumpeted at the bottom and the top, and then the bottoms, you know, the bottom of these pillars has this kind of like 4 foot of water. I mean, the water can be any level, but we requested a certain, because we were following with the Steadicam, and obviously Adrian and the actors and the extras were having to walk through it. So we had to set the water level. And then, really, I just had to kind of, I did light it, but as delicately as possible so that, you know, keeping the appeal of, you know, what we found appealing about this location. I mean, it's some of my favorite images. I mean, it's kind of really haunting, some of my favorite images in the film.
So you said that you didn't approach the different locations for which there are many different sort of through the look, but I heard you say the Italy marble quarry sequences that it was an active quarry and you weren't able to light it the same way. How did that affect you versus the rest of the movie?
Well, I mean, so there's the exterior moments. A lot of the exteriors in the movie, day exteriors, I don't tend to like anyway. I tend to embrace a lot of available light. So there was a consistency in that regard. I mean, but you're right. Certainly, we turned up with a small crew, kind of skeleton crew, for 2 days at the back end of the movie, as well as 35mm for a range of handheld and the VistaVision tripod shots. So a lot of that, where Guy and Adrian are arriving to the marble and being shown the marble. I mean, when we first turned up, when we scouted, we got to that location and we could see everything. We could see all of what they call the galleries, these large kind of excavations of the marble. We could see all of those below, and we thought, oh my, this is going to look tremendous. When we turned up, it was all in thick fog, and we were kind of, crushed a little bit about it, because we were like, come all this way, and you can't see anything. And then in the process of shooting it, I guess, and certainly in the process of seeing the final cut, it could not be regarded any other way it really adds to this very strange dreamlike quality where you're following this mysterious man who's talking about beating the corpse of Mussolini. And it's extraordinary, so we were blessed. And so, it comes back to this idea of kind of like not always being in control, and how relinquishing control can sort of elevate something and take it somewhere where you didn't imagine. And then also, once it's in the hands of an audience, it's not yours anymore anyway. It's like, it's like remastering albums or something. People really just kind of want to hear the original album. It's like there's this idea of always trying to kind of rework or perfect something that doesn't need perfecting in many ways. But yeah, coming to your point, it's like, so that sequence in Carrera, there a lot of available light, very, very small manipulation of the available light. But then when the party scene, for example, which in, and then the brutal attack on Laszlo, that was all shot back in Budapest, even though it feels very seamless. And we managed to find these sort of catacombs in underneath Budapest that matched beautifully. And so those elements, there's obviously a lot of lighting, naturalistic and trying to feel unlit, but there's a lot of lighting going on there. So yeah, it's to your question, it didn't feel radically different, like in the sense that a lot of the day exteriors, I tend to kind of embrace the light as much as possible anyway,
Jumping forward to kind of the epilogue section, you mentioned the use of digital cameras. Can you talk about what it was like shooting? The majority of the movie's on film, and then you're shooting on digital. What was that like? And as you said, it cuts between that and VistaVision. So just talking about that. Again,
it comes, some of that photography ends up emulating this kind of Wiseman-esque, this kind of, well, some of it almost feels like news report photography, handheld Betacam kind of footage. So Adam shot, obviously by design, it was all part of Brady and I's photographic design, but Adam concentrated on shooting that whilst I was doing a lot of the film work. Often we would shoot side by side. So we would shoot, VistaVision at the same time as we were shooting the Betacam sections. In terms of kind of the intent behind it, in all three films with Brady, he's often explored this idea of sort of like what he's described as kind of antiquity versus modernity in some ways, and this idea of like, are we improving, And so I think it's quite humorous, I think, in that scene in some regards, because it's kind of saying like, oh, you've watched this entire movie that is kind of like crafted on celluloid, and, you're watching this incredible sort of artist designing this amazing institute. And then, cut to the 80s, it hasn't kind of fared well over time. It's a little crass, and the sort of the Israeli pavilion doesn't really age terribly well, the design of that, and the aesthetic of digital. So it's supposed to be like this new age of like, hey, haven't we improved? And, there's humor in that. And it's in, that scene kind of embodies one of the themes that Brady is often kind of like returns to. For me, anyway, that's how I see it. So that was the idea behind the aesthetic there. And also I think that's why it's important to still keep some film element and the VistaVision element, in order to show that contrast and to almost be like the film is continuing, but then we're also going to show you, we're gonna jump ahead sort of 30 years and then, 20, 30 years and show you, how we've progressed.
So I would have figured that the score would be, would be done entirely in post, but I read that some of the score was played on set for the choreography of the camera and the actors. Was that true? Not true?
Yes, yeah, that's right. Yeah, very unusual way of working. I mean, I've never worked like that with a composer, but Daniel Blumberg, who composed the terrific score, he's very much part of like the family. Like Brady has this kind of like traveling circus of extended family. That's Stacy and Rafi and myself and Daniel and Ada and we're just this kind of like troupe that is twice turned up in Budapest and it's wonderful. Like it's we work very, very hard and we have these wonderful kind of like meals and conversations in the evening. I mean, it really is remarkable and special and unique for me anyway. And so Daniel was there through the entire process, and he was on set with us, and he would be playing little pieces of music. And then for example, there's two points I can think of. One is the ship. That moment I wasn't even aware it was going to happen, but Brady started playing. He was at the monitor and started playing the music, and it's like ding 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 do do do, and it's this music's going on, and I'm like, wow, where's this music coming from? And suddenly it's kind of informing my handheld work and potentially probably informing Adrian. I don't know, you'd have to ask him, but certainly like it was almost like a metronome that sort of started, that set the tone for us. And then the jazz club was another case in point where Daniel had handpicked these kind of amazing jazz, sort of avant-garde jazz musicians, And so that was day one. And we were like day one on a Tuesday afternoon filming that scene, trying to make it feel like 2 a.m. on a Saturday, on a Saturday morning, like everybody sort of like high, drunk, And so it was absolutely essential, it was absolutely essential to have this music playing for me anyway, in terms of how I responded with the camera. And I think, given that was day one, it really helped to sort of set the tone for everybody, going into the whole movie. It was really, really beneficial.
As we sort of start to wrap up, this might be a tough question, but is there a favorite shot you have in the film? And is there a shot that was you're most impressed that you were able to pull off, given physical, technical, whatever logistical problems there might have been?
I mean, the second part of that, I would answer by saying I think the Carrera marble quarries was just convincing people to do it. Like early on, this is just the way filmmaking works in terms of the economics and things. But we were encouraged to look at these quarries in Hungary, as Carrera. And I'm laughing now, but purely because when you finally see what Carrera's like and you go to see it, there's no way you could ever emulate it. I mean, this searing white marble, there's no way you'd recreate it anywhere else. So, it's to the credit of the producers and the service company in Budapest that recognized that and allowed us to go and do it, because, more often than not, you're sort of forced to compromise and make these things work. And I think, Brady certainly sort of dug his heels in and said, no, it has to be this place. And when you finally see it, and when we finally all saw it to film it, of course, there was no question that it had to be shot there. And then in terms of like a shot that, I mean, there are several shots in the movie. It's hard to pick one, but one that I've spoken about previously, there's a shot in a handheld sequence where Adrian is shoveling coal and Van Buren arrives to find him and recommission him, ask him to commission him to build the Institute. Anyway, it's this kind of wonderful, like I single that shot out because I'm not entirely sure how we achieved it. I didn't light it. It was just a certain time of day. There's a specific quality to the shadows. There's negative fill from the coal on the ground. it's like a hopper that's kind of shot on the moon or something. It's just an incredible quality. And it's one of those examples where everything is just coming together. It's just a kind of strange alchemy, you know. The costumes are incredible. The location's incredible. The building behind looks like a matte painting, but it's not, you know. So the fact that we shoot on film ties into that. Like there's a certain letting go of control when you shoot on film. You know, you through your expertise and experience, you know how to expose film, but then when you send it away and it becomes this alchemical process and then comes back, you don't know exactly what you're going to get. I mean, anyone who's taken a roll of film, you know, shot a roll of film on a stills camera knows that. And there's a real beauty to that. There's also an incredible anxiety and an incredible amount of responsibility to get it right, because it's, you know, a lot of time and money. But yeah, that's one image that I return to, because I still look at it and I'm not entirely sure how we achieved it.
Are you working on any projects that you're at liberty to talk about?
No, I mean, I'm, you know, Brady has a film that his next film that he's asked me to shoot, which was obviously, you know, is a no-brainer, of course. But he, you know, that's a little ways off. Yeah, so really, I'm talking to people about projects, but nothing set and nothing I can necessarily disclose. Oh, sorry. Apologies. I will back up and say I had the absolute pleasure of shooting in Budapest again with a similar crew on a film called Wicker for Olivia Colman's company. And that was Alex Fisher and Eleanor Wilson directing that. And that was absolutely wonderful. I had a blast. And so that will be coming out at some point. I'm very, very excited. Haven't seen a cut of it, but I'm very, very excited to see it. It's Alexander Skarsgård and Elizabeth Debicki and Peter Dinklage and Olivia Colman, of course. So yeah, that'll probably be the next one coming out.
Amazing. Trent, shall I ask?
It's Big Kahuna time.
So our Big Kahuna final question is, what is the last great film you watched? And it can be a rewatch or a first-time watch, but it has to be great.
Oh my goodness, you really know how to put me on the spot here. What's that? Oh, yes. Sorry. Apologies.
No.
Using the helpline.
Yeah. Phone a friend, right? I'm Still Here. Film that's out at the moment, which I thought was absolutely tremendous. Golden Globe winning film. Absolutely extraordinary performances and beautifully crafted and shot. Yeah, I really thought it was tremendous.
Well, outstanding. Thank you so much to Lol Crawley, who's the DP behind such films as White Noise, The Humans, The Devil All the Time, and all three of Brady Corbet's feature films, including The Brutalist, which you should see in theaters if you get the chance. Thank you so much for your time.
Which is now opening in IMAX, I think, in some theaters. So, yeah.
That's right, yeah. Go see it.
On a biggest screen as possible. Thanks again. Hopefully we can talk after your next movie.
Thank you. I really appreciate it, guys. It was fun. Thank you.
Thank you so much to Lol Crawley. Parth, that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I agree. Thanks so much to Lol Crawley and his team for coming on the show. Really appreciate it. It's been pretty cool. We've been able to get a lot of people involved with people that have been we didn't mention Lol Crawley nominated for an Oscar.
Yes, it's literally ridiculous that we didn't talk about this in the intro.
Yes.
But now that we're in the outro, hopefully we'll put it in this description or something like Oscar nominated.
Yeah.
Because it's a big deal. Lol Crawley, sorry we didn't acknowledge this during our intro. You were nominated for an Oscar. Congratulations. That's like a few days or maybe a week after the interview. So we got him right under the wire.
Yeah, right before he was a little too prestigious and cool for us.
Yeah, his stock price just shot up. Now we wouldn't.
But now maybe we can ride his coattails and sort of, as he goes up, we do as well.
I would imagine that's how this will play out for both of us, for all of us.
Here's
For
hoping.
me, you, and Lol, we're good now.
This
after
was a great episode.
Nomination. But speaking of Oscar nominations, congrats again to Lol Crawley for that cinematography, the Brutalist nominee. Parths, you're in a rush to get out of here and wrap this up because you got something to see.
That's right, folks. I'm seeing Wicked: Part 1, the prequel to Wicked: For Good.
Part 2, dare I say.
Yeah.
Hail Elphaba.
Oh!
Hey, at least I'm not hailing Oz.
Okay.
I learned
Fair
that in Wicked Part 1. Wicked:
Wow,
Part
and
1.
I have not seen the stage show, nor have I seen, or read the book. So I kind of don't really know all that much, except maybe it's about racism, maybe it's something. I don't know. Adam McKay said that it was one of the most leftist films he's seen in years, and that he would not be surprised if it was banned within 5 to 10 years.
Wow.
So he
Parth,
really liked it.
Keep an eye out for this. Maybe like the Wicked Witch is like misunderstood.
I hope so.
I think if you go in with that expectation, you will not be disappointed. Yes. Next we're gonna do like who's Sauron or whatever.
Sauron, yes.
Yeah, we could do a thing about like him in college and like he gets bullied and stuff. And then we're like, Sauron's not so bad after all.
Yeah.
I haven't seen those movies.
Ever since Trump came into office, we've been really considering a right-wing pivot, and I think this is the episode where we confirm it's happening.
Some of us have already completed that pivot. Parth, not to name names,
I'm on my way.
Is making up his mind. But yeah, we're excited for another year of movies. If Hollywood isn't bombed into oblivion, or Wicked Part 1, Hail Trump isn't banned or in 5 to 10 years. But we got new microphones. And And this interview went well. And
we're going to be talking with some cool people. Next
Yes.
week.
This will be another great year for the pod, hopefully.
Next week is going to be the weekend before Valentine's Day, I believe. So we might be doing a special fun episode for that, and then continue on with our regularly scheduled episode. So
Same bat
look out
time,
for that.
same bat channel. First time hearing of this Valentine's stuff. Maybe Parth and I will come over. I'll come over to Parth and we'll turn on
I think
a romantic comedy, snuggle up, and chit chat about love and love and love.
Just two dudes, one with a girlfriend.
Parth, that's the first time in history Gone Girl guest Sophia Alexis has been referred to. I don't even want to say that word as your very good friend.
I didn't say I was the one with a girlfriend. Maybe you're dating someone. I don't know. See you next week, guys.
See you next week, guys.